Hello and welcome back to RageGamingVideos. My name is Hollow, and today we're back for 5 more very useful items and tools that you are probably not using in your playthroughs that are ridiculously beneficial that you might not know about, or maybe you need a reminder. Actually use them. We had some great suggestions in the comments on last time, so thank you so much for that. Let's get started. To kick us off then, I'm talking about the Gravity Stone fans and the Gravity Stone chunks. These are gravitational based consumable items you can throw at enemies, and they're pretty damn effective and underused. The stone chunk is used kind of like a thrown pot. It creates an area where, yes, it explodes under the target. Kind of like that one Ash of War using the Star Beast jaw to, erupt a gravitational sort of spike under the target. That only costs 5 FP to do and can be a nice little bit of surprise burst on a target, whether you're in PvE or PvP. It's pretty cool. However, more effective and more relevant is the Gravity Stone fans. How this one works is we are throwing a literal wave of that gravity, which is, as you can see, really useful in a multi-target situation. It only costs 13 FP to throw, and it, as you can see, staggers enemies as well, and it has really reliable, respectable range. Now, I'm doing this on a build that has literally 0 intelligence on it. I haven't leveled intelligence at all. And what you see with both of these items is that they scale with bow strength and primarily intelligence at the exact same scaling rates. So if you are running an intelligence build, you can be benefiting from this effect. A little bit of gravitational magic on a consumable item for very cheap FP cost. Single target burst or the cleave AoE. But an interesting detail about these items is that they're actually strike damage, which is the type of damage you need to deal proper damage to those crystalline enemies, the ones that are basically made of crystal that are really annoying to deal with. Let me show you. These specific enemies is what I'm talking about. The crystalline enemies that when you attack them, you'll bounce off them with a normal weapon. And as you saw, I did 13 damage. It's nothing. In this scenario, I just can't really fight these guys, not with this build, but I could pull out some gravity stones. And instead of 13 damage, we're getting 219 on the AoE one. And with the stone chunk, the single target one, 380. So I can actually kill them and deal some damage to them, which could be very useful against maybe the earlier game ones for sure, but certainly these ones, which are really pesky to deal with. What's very nice about these then is that we can get them very early in your playthrough, and we have an infinite source of them. All you need to do is come here at the northern point of Caelid, right next to the isolated merchant right here where we're standing. When you come here at night, you will be invaded by the boss. This is the Gravity Stone Peddler, the Hunter, at this location. After you defeat him, he will drop his ball bearing that you can bring to the twin husks in the round table, and now you can infinitely buy these very useful consumable items. So if you're running an intelligence build, definitely consider these, and even then, definitely consider them in an AoE situation where you might benefit. Next up then is a item that is going to benefit every build, especially builds that are not running Flame Grant Me Strength, which requires, 15 faith. So if you're not running any faith, or the minimum of 15 faith, this is going to really help. Exalted Flesh, something that you will have been given throughout your playthrough a couple times and you will have found in various locations. These are infinitely craftable sources of damage. As you can see, it literally boosts your physical attack. And for some reason, everyone I've talked to just seems to forget they have these. They just don't use them. And I am myself, I'm definitely a victim of this. Like, there's no reason why I'm not using these. I have no idea why I've not talked about it or thought about it. And now we're doing it. It temporarily boosts your physical attack by 20% for 30 seconds. That is really good. So as we can see, my current AR is 786. I eat the Exalted Flesh, and for the next 30 seconds, I've gone up to 943. Really good. This is extremely worth using before any boss fight, before any PvP, before any scenario where you think, oh, I might need that extra bit of damage. That will help you. And there's really no excuse. They're literally infinitely craftable. You can always have these. Now, there is a downside to them. It does not stack with Flame Grant Me Strength. You can't put both on at the same time. It just doesn't work that way. So yeah, if you are running Flame Grant Me Strength, definitely use that because you also get the fire affinity benefit. But in the case of every other build, definitely use this flesh. To craft it, you need Roa Fruit, which you can get very easily, Lump of Flesh and Hefty Beast Bone, which again, you can get very easily. I'll explain in a sec. And then the Arteria Leaf, which are apparently exceedingly rare to find, but there are a load of places we can find them en masse. I know a location very early in the game where we can get 9 of them, and you can infinitely farm them. You will need the recipe book to actually craft them though, and you can get that from this merchant here. This is the nomadic merchant in East Limgrave, very close to Fort Height. He will sell you the Armorer's Cookbook number 3 for just 2,000 runes, very cheap, and there you go, Exalted Flesh crafting. Roa fruit are these red berries that you can find over the entire game. They are absolutely everywhere, and if at some point you see acquire materials and you press that button, there's a damn good chance you just got some Roa fruit. So that is the easiest thing to get in the game for sure, and it's nice to see that here for this crafting recipe. Look, there's another one here, and then there's another one here. Yeah, again, you can get them bloody everywhere. Lumps of flesh are a little bit more awkward. You need to kill dogs or boars, wolves, or even bears, and that will drop lumps of flesh sometimes. But we have a consistent way to get them otherwise. If you come here to the Church of Vows at night time and enter the church, you will be invaded by the meat peddler Hunter boss fight, and after you defeat him, you will get his ball bearing, which you can bring to the twin husks in the round table, and then infinitely buy the lumps of flesh you need. For the hefty beast bones, we're going to do much the same thing. Now, you can kill, say, boars or bears or even lesser rune bears to get these to drop, but it is much easier to simply come here at night. This is the War Master's shack. We come here at night, we step into the shack, and we kill the hunter that will spawn in and try to attack us. He will drop his ball bearing, and just, yeah, much the same. We bring that to the twin husks in the round table, and we can now infinitely buy our hefty beast bones. The most awkward part of this really is the arterial leaf. They're apparently exceedingly rare to find. There's loads of locations you can actually get them, like for example here on the floor as I pick this up. But the problem is, once I rest at a bonfire or whatever, that's not going to restore. That is gone for this playthrough until I go into New Game Plus again, and that's it. Fortunately, we can get 9 very easily in the game, and we can infinitely farm them. So these 4 that I'm standing at this tree, that's right here next to the Kalu Baptismal Church. This is in the Weeping Peninsula, and you need to basically go from the Castle Morn Rampart Grace and run west, and then run uphill, and then come to this tree that's just to the east of the actual church itself on the hill next to this tree. So you can pick up 4 right here. We can also get 5 more here at the Weeping Peninsula, right here from this merchant, just on the southwestern point. He's here, the isolated merchant at his shack, and as we speak to him, he sells 5 of the leaves for 1,000 runes each, so we grab those. But I'm standing here at the mountaintops of the Giants, right here at the Giants' grave post, which is just after you cross the sort of chain bridge on your way to the Red Giant. There's going to be all these furry, as people call them, furry mountain giants, and if you kill them, they have a chance to drop the leaf. This is the easiest way to farm them. We come from this Giant's grave post, run straight to this giant here, kill him, and then he's very likely to drop the leaf, as he does for my first try here. And he is a infinitely farmable resource of these leaves. So while they're supposed to be exceedingly rare and, you know, a one-time pickup, we do have a way to infinitely get them in any playthrough. So, Exalted Flesh. Do not, or at very least, stop sleeping on this. I'll also just briefly mention the dried liver and food types. There's spell-proof, fire-proof, lightning-proof, holy-proof, and then there's the immunizing ones. These are all great and serve different purposes in specific content, but for me, if I was going to pick one to talk about, it's obviously going to be Exalted Flesh. Next, we're talking about Starlight Shards, because for some reason, people aren't using these, and this is a call out to myself as well. It's funny, I was talking to Josh about them recently, right? And he was like, wait, what? There's an item that restores your FP. He didn't know this is a thing he had in his inventory that he could use, and he was playing a sorcerer, so he really could have benefited from this. It literally gives you FP when you use it, it'll restore it over time, and it's a good amount. So if you're out of your mana flask, which will happen in any playthrough where you're using Ashes of War or your spells or incantations, like most builds will, they're an extremely useful thing to have in your inventory and to pop when you need them. And occasionally, that will happen. So maybe you should use them. And it's funny because I say this to Josh like, you know, yeah, these do exist. They do these things. Why haven't you been using them? And then I thought about it and I realized I haven't used a single one in my playthrough. And I think I had like 40 plus of them. We can find them at these monuments all over the world, and you just pick them up and they go straight to your chest or your inventory. There are loads of them. This one is very easy to get early in the game, southeast of Limgrave. And there's another right next to the Church of Plague as you're overlooking the whole area with the boss fight. Yeah, there's a lot of these around the world. And let me show you how much they actually give you. So I've just emptied my FP. I have 0 out of 100 right now. We're going to pop one of these. Just going to gradually restore my FP. from the moment that it's active. So you can see that bar is going up, and we can also see this icon here, shown as a temporary icon, that is restoring my FP, and it's actually going up pretty quick. I'm getting 2 FP per tick. It lasted 60 seconds, so that is 2 FP a second for 60 seconds. That is not bad at all, and a very useful thing to have when you're totally out of your mana flasks, and you certainly need them if you're running incantations or sorceries, or you have a strong Ash of War you'd like to use. Definitely something to not sleep on, because you've probably got loads of them in your inventory you haven't been using. Our next tip comes from you guys in the comments. A lot of you guys brought these up after I was showing the crystal darts from last time, how they can actually CC and turn enemies against one another, so you shouldn't be sleeping on those. Well, yeah, a lot of people are also like, yeah, there's actually another throwing knife that you should be using, and it's of course the Kukuri. These are heavy throwing knives which deal nice damage when they actually hit the enemy, but have respectable bleed build up. And very interestingly, they scale. So you have A scaling with strength and S scaling with dex. These actually hit really hard if you're running either of those or both of those. And they also have arcane scaling, meaning you can actually increase the amount of bleed that these things produce. If you are running a bleed build, therefore have some arcane, you can really benefit from these. Frankly, they're so good that you are, well, not throwing, but you are throwing by not using these if you're running a bleed build. And the thing is, we can buy these infinitely right at the beginning of the game. This merchant here on the Weeping Peninsula, once again, down here south Limgrave, he is actually able to sell you infinite of these. You can have 30 in your inventory at one time, which is a lot, and then we can store 600. Having a ranged bleed option that also hits hard on its initial hits is very useful. You know, I normally have to say use some specific pots, maybe pull out a bow with specific arrows. You know, you have these throwing knives right here. So 210 per hit, 3 hits so far. On a completely zeroed out, there we go, 4 hits to get a bleed with no arcane on this build. Let's try an arcane build now. All right, we're on our arcane bleed build now. I have a good amount of dex and I have 50 arcane on this, so we'll see how fast this actually causes the bleed build up. So last time it was 4 throws. Now we got, oh, that's better damage on this as well. And 3 throws to actually get the bleed. Maybe as I approach this guy, I give him a couple while he's roaring, and now that he's making his way over to me, I'm going to stop throwing them and start fighting him like normal. I'm out of stamina. He's about to attack. We'll back up and we'll give him one more of the thrown knives, and there you go, a kill. It's very easy to make that part of your gameplay, and it's very useful. If you're just like 1 hit away from a bleed proc, you can just throw one and get that nice burst. Last but certainly not least then, perfume bottles, a consumable item that spreads out mist from your mouth or has unique effects when you drink them. A really useful and interesting one is the acid spray mist. You are going to spread out a mist from your mouth, damaging their armaments, which temporarily lowers their attack power. So we're gonna have this guy hit me a reasonable chunk of damage, and then when I use the acid spray mist on him, he's now affected by it. Ah, there you go. Wow. So now that he's affected by it, he's doing significantly less damage. I can't say the exact number, but it looks like between 10 or 20% less damage, which makes a big difference against a proper enemy in a boss fight, that's for sure. I just checked the footage, and that is over 60 seconds of that debuff, where an enemy is going to be doing significantly less damage to you. To craft those then, all you need is the actual perfume bottles that you find around the world, and these materials, the Altus Bloom, the Miranda Powder, and the Formic Rock. Blooms are all over the Altus Plateau. They're the golden plant you pick up. Miranda Flower comes from actually killing the living flower enemies. And then Formic Rock is wherever you find the giant ants around the world. And there's quite a few of them in the area where we're standing right now in the Ainsel River. For example, here in this cave, as you're going through the area, there's a load of them. The reason we're standing here though at the Ainsel River downstream is because of the Hermit Merchant. The merchant here does sell what we need to actually be able to craft it. The Perfumer's Cookbook number 4, as you can see, acid spray mist. The entrance to this area is easy to get to. It's the Ainsel River Well, just east of the Church of Owls. Next is the Poison Spray Mist perfume. For a small amount of FP, we can send out a poison mist cloud. Poison, much like Scarlet Rot, will do damage to a target over time and last a really long time. And many targets in this game, the grand majority of them at very least, can be poisoned. So it's as easy as just popping one of these, blasting out the poison, and inflicting them with it. And as you can see, it only took 1 and he's already poisoned. that's going to burn their health over time. You combine that with, say, Scarlet Rot as well as Poison at once, and it does a lot of damage over time. This is really chipping away at his health. To craft the Poison Spray Mist, you're going to need the cookbook tied to that. That's the Perfumer's Cookbook number 2, which we can find right here at the Shaded Castle. This is the Shaded Castle Inner Gate Grace, and as we run through here from the Grace, just behind me, take a left and climb up the ladder. We will enter the building on our right, and as we walk in here, there's actually a ladder hidden away in the dark right here. After making our way up that ladder, as we climb up, there's a body having a nice view here, and this is the body that has the Perfumer's Cookbook number 2. And just like the acid one, this one requires your Altus Bloom all over Altus Plateau, the Miranda Powder from killing the flowers, but specifically Poison Bloom, which we can actually get en masse at Jarberg here in the east side of the lakes region. And there's actually a load of flowers here that we can get. The pinkish purple ones, those are the ones that give you Poison Bloom, and there's, as you can see, there's a lot of them alongside other ones to pick up. To just pick up all in this town, and we can actually just rest at the Grace here and run this infinitely to get all of these resources, which is very nice. Finally, I want to mention the Iron Jar Aromatic. This is a self buff when you drink it. It's an interesting one. You pop it, take the potion, and suddenly I am made of this, well, steel. Now, I do take a little bit of stagger, as you can see, but I take greatly reduced damage. There's 3 of them hitting me. They're actually hitting each other more than me, but I don't ever get knocked down. While I can't really properly roll, I can fat roll, and I can still attack like normal during this. This is an incredible thing to pop before you do something that you don't want to get interrupted. Whether you want to do like a huge combo of attacks, or maybe something to pop before you do, say, a dragon incantation that don't have hyper armor in this patch for some reason. I think that's a really cool one, and we've done some builds to do with it here on the channel. For that, you need the Perfumer's Cookbook number 3, and they require, yeah, more Altus Bloom, then Budding Cave Moss, Living Jar Shards from killing the Living Jar enemies that are all over the world. We get the recipe for that here in the Azura Side Tomb, the Altus Plateau region, just outside of Lindell. Just kind of before you enter the Capital Rampart, you come down below instead and make your way over here. This is an interesting one because it's a bit of a puzzle. As you can see though, there are living jars all over this tomb, so this is a great place to kill those and maybe get some living jar shards for crafting these bottles. When you use the chests in here though, they will kidnap you, as it were, transport a trap, and teleport you. This is where it gets confusing, so make sure you follow me. We're going to run a straight path all the way down, not really going off course. So as we progress down here, we're running left and through this entrance. And then as we come out here, we can't go anywhere but to the right. And as we're coming forward, there's a chest straight ahead of us. After going through that transporter trap then, we will come out here and you'll have a couple of big boys to watch out. But on the body straight ahead of you, this one right here, that is going to be the cookbook that you need. Beautiful. As I've killed these, they've actually dropped some living jar shards. So yeah, a great place to farm them if you want to come here. To craft any of those though, you will need perfume bottles. Now, you find them around the world. They are in limited supply, and each one you have means you can craft more. But ultimately, you only need at least one. As you can see, all of these are very effective on the first use. Having more is just convenient and good to have. But to get yourself at least one, you can come here to the Hermit Merchant just outside of Lindell in the Altus Plateau region. As you're progressing around to go that anyway, you can come up here to speak with him. He's a great merchant and sells some really useful stuff, but obviously we're after the perfume bottle that he sells for 2,000 runes. But there you have it. That is my second set of items and tools that I think are really useful and really cool, that I kind of wish I'd used more in my first playthrough, and maybe now you and I can use them to our benefit, depending on what build you're doing and what playstyles benefit from these items. If you have any more that are really cool that you found, then let me know in the comments and maybe we can come back for a third video. But if you have found the video useful or interesting, please drop a like so we can keep making more. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.